What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Backliners podcast. Agro and Barracuda, as per usual. Gotta let you know, welcome to the Backliners. It's presented by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app and use code Backliners for a deposit match up to $100. Barra,
Hello.
can you believe we can finally talk about Smite 2? It was weird. Every time I've talked about it on the podcast, I've been like, it's so weird because I've been so used to needing to keep it secret and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And we did a full freaking patch notes show today, which was very odd.
Did it still feel like you were leaking it on the show?
A little bit, yeah. It was like, oh man, we're just talking about everything. What's going to be really crazy is seeing people stream it tomorrow. That's going to really mess with my brain. Because, I saw some people playing it at HRX, in the back room, and, we've got our playtests and all that kind of stuff, but, it is definitely nerve-wracking to know that a large portion of our audience is going to get their first impression tomorrow.
Which is, the biggest day.
Yeah.
And maybe not the biggest day. Maybe there will be some future days that are, just
No, there will be big days in the future. We could have a bad alpha weekend, with a lot of problems or whatever, and everything could be fine. But I would really prefer, it would be really good for my mental for this to all go well. And hopefully it will. I think the general reception that I could tell on Twitter and Reddit was pretty positive to the Patch Notes show. I was told that Twitch chat was pretty positive.
That's new.
During the show, which is new. That happens pretty rarely for any game.
I feel like most Patch Notes shows are like, this is a terrible idea. That's so OP. Why would you do this?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, stupid high-res doesn't know what they're doing, all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure those days will come again. But
tomorrow.
We're just enjoying. We're just enjoying the positivity while it's around.
Bliss.
Yeah, exactly. It's good stuff. So I can basically talk about all Smite 2 stuff now that's going to be in alpha. We revealed a ton of stuff. If you go to smite2.com, you can see a massive patch notes / notes for alpha weekend document. This was 56 pages in Google Docs before it was uploaded.
Wow. That's impressive.
So it is large, for sure. I commend anyone who can read all the way through it. There's a lot of, I would say there are dev notes and bullet points that you don't have to read the nitty gritty of everything, but getting a general idea I think will be helpful for a lot of people. And so you can check those out there, but I mean, the whole kit and caboodle is out there now. What is a kit or a caboodle, by the way? Does anyone even know?
I was thinking about that when you said it. I feel like I haven't heard that in a while.
No, it's a very old person phrase, but I'm old, so as Max informed us last week.
I hate that guy. He just comes on here and roasts us. It just makes me feel bad. I
know, seriously. Any news on what a kit or caboodle is?
No. I searched up kit and... Oh, wait. It's a reference to a soldier's kit. And the word caboodle in the phrase, the whole kit and the caboodle, is an alliteration of the word. Alliteration of what word?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't really know. I'm very tired. I'm going to apologize right away. It's been a crazy couple days. I mean, we locked for Alpha 1 a while ago, but it's not like it's okay, we're good. We're locking for Alpha 2 pretty soon. There's just a lot of work to be done, and, little baby and all that.
Yeah, no, that's not making any sense.
What? The baby or the kit and caboodle?
The kit and caboodle, it's an alliteration of the word boodle, and then it's combining another word, and...
Okay, well, what's a boodle? That doesn't help me at all.
I don't know. I feel like I got more confused after I searched it, and I'm also very tired, because work has been crazy lately.
I feel that. I do feel that.
Yeah, I work at high res.
Yeah, we know you do effects, right? That was the bit.
Yeah.
So
I've been doing it for a while.
You got a chance to watch most of the show. I imagine just you asking some questions or pulling some questions from chat if they have it.
Sure.
What do you want to start with for Smite 2?
I guess just a general question of where did you guys start for Smite 2? Like,
the whole thing was rebuilt from nothing. We had to go to Unreal 5 and rebuild the entire game from the ground up. You know, we're able to port some things, but I don't think anything at all, to my knowledge, is a one-to-one port from Smite 1.
Wow.
Even, you know, I'm working on putting in some temp sounds for a god that I'm porting over. I can't say which one. And
you're just making sounds.
Well, yeah, I'm just going, you know, like whatever. No, I'm porting those sounds over, but those will not be the sounds we use. They will be, you know, used as inspiration, but everything was rebuilt from nothing. I hope at some point, because I still have like my first playtest of Smite 2 from I don't even know when, and it will not look anything like what you're going to play in alpha. It did not feel anything like what you will play in alpha. I think the feel of the game has been the hardest to replicate.
Are you trying to replicate Smite?
Yes.
What percentage of Smite 1 is Smite 2, would you say? Would it be like
ideally or currently? I think we still have a little bit to go. And we obviously intend to keep pursuing it. I think people who haven't done game development, and even those who have done game development, if you're like me, it's really hard to understand how a game develops its feel. Like, I could tell you why I think Smite feels the way it does, but how to get a game that you're building in an engine to feel that way is incredibly complex. And there have been so many different iterations and changes in the name of trying to get it to feel more like Smite 1 in its movement, and how projectiles fly and all that kind of stuff. I think it is very, very close to how Smite 1 feels. I would say at least 90%.
Wow. That's really
I think
high.
it is a miraculous. And I think some of the difference is for the better. For example, I was messing with a god today on their timings, and I was like, oh, this is how their Smite 1 combo kind of feels, and I like opened up my Smite 1 editor, and I was messing with it over there. Then I opened it up in the Smite 2 editor, and I was like, wow, this is just smoother in Smite 2. I think we are much more...
fluid?
Our tools are much better in terms of making fluidity happen. And I think the design philosophy is willing to be stronger. Like, I think you will be able to Anubis 2-3 alt faster in Smite 2 than you can in Smite 1.
Oh, that's cool.
It is smoother, it is faster, you can cancel out of your post fires faster. And like, I remember the first time we did a pass on it, we did a big pass, programming had worked on it. I was watching someone do the Anubis 2-3-4, and I was like, yo, that might be too fast. Like, that might be really OP. But it's just, when everyone feels that smooth, it's fine. You know, it just feels good. So it feels like Smite. It is definitely a different game. The way the game plays is different. But It is Smite. There's no doubt that if you've played any amount of Smite and you play Smite 2, you will know that it is Smite.
Mm-hmm. I heard about this is going to be really random, but I heard there was no Invader's Curse. And then
Correct.
I heard you talking about you've done more, I think it was vertical jungling than you've ever done before. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see the map because I had to work at the same time.
Sure.
So I had it playing on YouTube.
Your work isn't talking about these things?
Yeah, I had my earbuds in, and I was just working. I'm like, I feel like I'm doing something wrong right now. But I was like, I'm doing my best to fit in this information.
Yeah.
So is it a similar map layout with, I assume, like 3 lanes? Like, is there a duo side, or is it just kind of both sides are equal?
There's a side that has a longer lane than the other. It is on the Gold Fury side of the map. There's still a Gold Fury, there's still a Fire Giant. There is outer alcoves that extend the whole lane. On
like Smite, like a
kind of
launch?
like the classic launch map, but not quite. There's not camps out there. There's the gold blessing that you have to just like interact with and channel on in order to secure. And then there's the teleporters. There's a teleporter on the outer edge of both side lanes, one on each tier 1, or about perpendicular to each tier 1 tower. And they just, if you take the Chaos side, duo teleporter, it takes you to the Chaos side solo teleporter, and vice versa on order. The map is very recognizable as a Smite Conquest map, but the biggest differences are the stealth bushes. Add a lot to both the lane and the jungle, because there are stealth bushes in each lane, and the way the jungle works is fairly different. We talked a lot about infamy is like our term for it, where your first time or two clearing a jungle camp won't drop a buff, but as you kill red buffs, for example, you will gain red buff infamy, and the camps will rank up in terms of their buff value throughout the game. So if I kill your red buff, I'm denying you gaining red infamy, and I gain it for myself because I've killed a red buff. So I can really clearly focus, like, my blue buff at the end of the game could be significantly better than your blue buff if you've been losing them all game long. And no Invader's Curse as well. So it happens. I'm invading a lot more, and it feels really good.
Is that why Hercules is not one of the first 14 gods?
Yeah, I do think Herc would cause a lot of turmoil. I was literally just watching an old Andenster clip, though, the other day of... He has, like, 3 videos on his YouTube channel. And one of them is...
His videos are so good.
They're so good. He gets invaded. He hogs early, but then he's Apollo jungle. He, like, steals his speed with an auto.
Oh, yeah.
And they chase them down. And that's with Ymir. And Ymir... I think will do that very well in Smite 2 as well. I think Ymir is very, very good in Smite 2 is my guess.
Yeah, I like the idea a lot of, I remember, I think it was AJ talking about making all the gods stat-wise not too different from each other.
True,
so
yeah.
Everyone can be, that kind of eliminates a lot of the, I don't know if frustration is the right word, but I guess it just increases flexibility, obviously.
Yep.
And I think that's a really good way to do it, honestly, where you just have like an idea and a identity of a character that can be moved around the map in different ways and do, I guess, different roles.
Yeah.
I assume there will be roles.
Yes, there are roles, but not classes.
Yeah.
It's I've been a big proponent of getting rid of classes. I'm very excited to be in that world for Smite 2. I think classes are a tool for new players to get a sense of how a character should play and what they generally do. And there are lots of ways that you can do that without having to shoehorn a character into a set of base stat, range. And, I mean, how many of our issues from Smite 1 in terms of balance perception go away if we aren't telling you that Gilgamesh and Erlong Shen are warriors, right? If we're just like, hey, here are Gilgamesh and Erlong Shen. This is what they do well. Play them wherever you want to play them. I'm sure there's a lot less frustration at their strength in the jungle because players aren't in the mindset of warriors must be solo first. So I think that also it should, hopefully, I think that one of my biggest hopes that is probably a pipe dream is that Smite 1 veterans come into Smite 2 with their knowledge of how to play Smite 1, but look at Smite 2 as a new game. And don't bring too many preconceived notions in to how these gods will interact and how to play the map and all that kind of stuff. I really think that obviously it shouldn't be your knowledge doesn't help you at all. You have no background, whatever.
But don't funnel into a certain idea of how to play the game. Basically.
Right, exactly. Like, for example, I mentioned a little bit on patch notes. I can talk more about it here now. I don't think Zeus his main role is mid anymore. I really don't. I don't think that's what his kit does well. If you didn't see, he no longer his AO2 has changed. It's no longer the shield throw that allows you to chain lightning. It's now an instant AoE around him that applies a charge, does some damage, and then he gets movement speed and a bunch of attack speed. And he doesn't, when he detonates, he doesn't remove charges from enemies.
Oh, wow.
Your detonate still goes on cooldown, but you keep them on them so that you can keep base attacking them for extra damage. I think he is much, much better as an ADC, as a dual lane damage dealer, or a jungler. I actually think he jungles pretty well.
Do you need a dual lane damage dealer to take down fire giants now? Or
I think Fire Giant is Gold Fury and Fire Giant are both difficult to do, and you need someone who can tank it for a good amount of time. It does a lot of damage. I'd say I've killed more Gold Furies by passing them back and forth than having someone tank it the whole time.
Gotcha, okay.
I think it's difficult, and fire is also very hard.
Is it for the aggro for Gold Fury, is it the same attack chain as it is now, or is it...
No, it's different.
Okay.
It's different. And fire has some new attacks. There are some really cool ones. I think that both of those objectives feel pretty refreshed. You can stack... Gold Furies now give you permanent buffs. The first one, I think, doubles your out-of-fountain movement speed for the rest of the game. If you kill 2 Gold Furies as a team, then you have an aura that makes your minion stronger when you're around, and that helps a lot with sieging. And if you kill a 3rd Gold Fury, then you deal 25% bonus damage to structures for the rest of the game. And those are very strong effects. Like Fire Giant only gives you a bunch of stats. It doesn't give you bonus damage to structures anymore. That's a Gold Fury effect. And then once a team has killed 3 Gold Furies, it doesn't matter which team does it. The rest of the game, it's now an Ancient Fury that is even tankier, even more damage, more threatening. It's about as hard. It's the mechanics aren't Fire Giant level, but it's tanky, almost to the level of Fire Giant, if I remember correctly. If I'm wrong on some of these details, by the way, I apologize. I've played a million different builds, both before the Alpha Weekend build and after, so it's hard to keep it straight.
And there's 58 pages of this.
Yeah, exactly. But when you kill Ancient Fury, it disables all the opponent's structures, like towers and phoenixes, for like 3 minutes or something like that. So late game macro is really different. I find myself calling like, hey, we can hold off a fire push. I'd much rather let's trade it for a third gold, or even sometimes a second gold if we're kind of weak. There have been times where we could have gone fire, but they probably get an Ancient Fury on the back or something like that, and it adds a lot more tension to the map, especially in the late game, which I think is really good. There are a lot less wards in general, because you get one at all times that, you know, obviously goes on cooldown, and you can upgrade it into a sentry, but that's it. And then there is an item that has that allows you to place a sentry ward as well. So, and that's, I think, very good for supports. But that's it. You cannot buy more wards as a carry. And it makes the map a lot more threatening, a lot more about tracking the jungle instead of just knowing where everyone is. I think it is really, really good for gameplay for there to be less wards. I think we've given players far too much vision in Smite 1 over the years, and I think it has conditioned players into playing the map a certain way, where you can only do these things, you know, we can only do gold if we know where everyone is. It's just, you just can't really do that in Smite 2 anymore. You've got to make some riskier calls, and my playtest teammates, I think, are getting a little sick of me Sino Fire Giant calling.
That's what I was about to say. Like,
I'm flipping every fire, baby. I think I've lost 4 in a row in terms of firefights, but
those are rookie numbers.
Bro. I know. Yeah, I know. I'm not expecting sympathy from you on that, but I do think that, you know, we're exploring more ways so that you don't have to just like flip fires all the time, but it puts a lot of emphasis on having a strong tank to tank the fire for you or the gold, and then either really, really good DPS to where you can burn it, or having really good secure. And really the only great secure right now is Kukulkan ult. And I think he's very, very good for that reason. But like Zeus, really good DPS. Anubis, very good DPS. Like, there are other characters that have their strengths there, but yeah, I think I forget how I even started on this train of thought. But yeah, that's a lot of stuff that I said.
Yeah, that, to me, off of the ward topic you brought up, scares me a little about making jungle too OP. Are you worried about that, or no?
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
I think jungle always has the most agency in a match. And this is true for... I haven't played Dota, but it's true in Smite 1, and it's true in League of Legends, where this role just has the most agency on the map. So it feels like the most OP. But I think there is more counterplay to constant ganking than there is in Smite 1, because if I'm a turbo farm jungler and their jungler's farming my side lanes or my mid laner, but I'm getting invades off, because the buffs level up, and like the level 3 buffs are like really OP. They're like really, really strong. And if I can get to a level 3 buff and they're sitting on a level 1 buff, then that's a scaling mechanism that works really well. Like, it gives you a big advantage in team fights that can easily offset being down for, you know, like a couple thousand gold. Like, they are basically worth an item in some places. And on certain characters, like, red buff is now applies a dot when you hit them with an ability or a basic attack. And the level 3 version is very, very strong. And so on like Loki, if I can get level 3 red, which is called Blight, and I can just press 2 and proc it on all of them, it does a lot of damage. But it takes a long time to get to level 3 red unless I'm really invading theirs, getting mine on cooldown, and getting the mid spawns of it. So if I'm playing Loki, I really heavily prioritize red, but if I'm playing Fenrir, I really heavily prioritize blue because it gives you a bunch of prots on ability hit, and so I can jump in and be a lot more aggressive, and red doesn't really matter much to me because I'm either killing someone or I'm not, right? He's not a poke character. So I found myself really caring about what buffs I want to level a good amount, and I think that level of like, there's getting to invade in Smite 1, yeah, I get a HUD and golden experience, but then it's all on me. I can't transfer that very well, like all that kind of stuff. This is transferable because, hey, I've got a Zeus mid. Zeus works very well with Blight. He's getting farmed, but I'm going to get him a level 3 Blight early in the game, and now he feels like he's back in it. You know what I mean? And I'm still getting the golden experience. It's just another way to kind of get into it. So, yeah, I think there's always a possibility jungle's really strong with less vision. I think it will be stronger at the beginning. I think players will be upset that they're dying to more ganks. And, again, if I can hope for Magical Christmas Land where players aren't bringing their preconceived notions in, I think we want to be Smite 2 to be more lethal in the early game than Smite 1 currently is. It is really hard to kill someone in the early game in Smite 1 right now.
Interesting.
Gods are very tanky. The jungle path is very set now because it's, it's late enough into this meta that people like top level ranked players, they have a lot of wards, but they don't really need them for the first 5 minutes of the game or so, right? Like you generally know where a jungler is going to be. You don't know where a jungler is going to be in Smite 2, so you're going to die to a gank that a ward wouldn't have even saved you in because you don't even know where they could be half the time.
As a jungler, do you need to split waves now, or do you have enough farm in the jungle to where you're just staying in the jungle consistently?
You can stay. It depends. We've done a lot of tweaking with that pretty recently. I don't know where the Alpha 1 numbers landed.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if that was something you guys wanted to happen.
We would want the jungler to stay in jungle as much as possible and not need to split.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't touch a wave currently as a jungler until like level 4, I want to say. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to do in the jungle. The chances that we have the optimized start for competitive is literal 0. It is always literal 0 unless we railroad you.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Players
will find some exploitable things, but that's okay. Oh yeah, I should also mention, we said this a lot on the patch notes, this is truly an alpha. Like, there will be bugs, there will be unbalanced things, there will be a lack of feedback for some things, there's a lot of temp art and effects and items and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't mean that we don't want your feedback on those things, but please do not expect, if I hear, oh, this game can't be competitive like this, like, we know, like, it's not there yet.
It's not trying to be.
But we will be, and that is a focus for us. Like, we talk a lot about how pros are going to play the map and what it would be like for playing in a best of 5 or all that kind of stuff. But there will be matches that could be unstable, like all that kind of stuff. Like, we hope for your patience there. But yeah, I think something like junglers being OP because there's less vision, I think will be fixed over time, because good players will get really good at tracking the jungle, and we are basically resetting something that good players really heavily subconsciously rely on. And we've already gotten like a good amount of feedback from friends and family that players want more wards, and I'm not saying it's not going to happen. There's always, literally nothing about the game is set in stone. We could change literally anything at this point, which is really exciting. But I do think a lot of that push for more ward vision is because of the comfort that current Smite players who've been playing Smite for 10 to 5 to 10 years have at avoiding dying to ganks, that we're now tossing them into a new game, and they're expecting to die to ganks at the same amount. And I don't think that's a realistic expectation, personally.
Yeah, because I think it was beginning of last year when the jungler was starting on both sides of the map.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a little bit more freedom to track in the jungler. It led to a really different feel, and it kind of made you always play defensive because you didn't know where the jungler was. But
Mm-hmm.
it depends on. I remember you guys talking about wanting to fight in the lanes more,
Mm-hmm.
and like winning your lane more. So I think if people can communicate effectively and try to track the jungler early mid game, so you can. I mean, it also depends on like I guess snowball effect for the first like 4 to 5 minutes of the game.
Sure.
How much, if you are playing defensively, or if you get ganked in the first like 2 minutes, are you just chalked now?
Mm-hmm.
Or is there comeback potential? But yeah, I think it just depends on how big the snowball is for how OP jungle is, and then also like I think you're saying like infamy for the
Yes.
buffs. It
Yep.
depends on how strong that is for kind of the anti snowball. If your jungler wants to farm more versus ganking more, because that's always been a balance in Smite. Like
Yep.
for pro play, is just should I be farming, or are ganks literally just useless? Like, will my solo losing his blue and back camps, which is like the worst thing ever for every solo laner, to
Mm-hmm.
get off a dual lane gank? Is will that be worth in the long haul? And obviously, since this is an alpha, like we'll have no idea down the
Right.
road.
Right.
But yeah, that's my only concern about it with lack of vision and being a dual laner is just kind of like because you're kind of up to your support for how you play the lane. Because if your support's like getting in there, you kind of have to get in there, or he just dies in 1v2.
Right.
Even if you say like be careful, not all supports, including me. Like when I play support, I'm not gonna back off there.
Yeah, I feel
I say you
insulted
could
if I'm
fight.
told to be careful.
Exactly,
I will
like
not be being careful.
exactly. So I will be dying to those ganks. I'll probably be whenever I play Smite 2. I'll probably be dying to a lot of ganks and probably getting frustrated by it because I just hate dying to ganks.
Yeah.
Just every dual
You're a
laner,
laner. It happens.
every laner ever hates dying to
Well, here's
ganks.
the thing, too. You can group up before minions spawn and walk into the enemy jungle and to ward now. Pre-minions, right?
Oh yeah,
Because there's no curse.
how long do wards last?
Do we put that in patch notes?
I don't know if it was like the short like 60-second wards or if it's like the
So many
2 minute wards.
rewards, outwards. Okay.
Because there's like if there's a shorter cooldown on it, like or I guess downtime would be a better word.
Yeah, it lasts 60 seconds. It is not very long.
Oh.
And the cooldown is 2 minutes.
Okay, that's not that bad.
So it lasts for a minute, cooldown of 2 minutes.
Yeah, so you have two waves where you need to question mark basically.
Right, but if you know that they aren't starting on your side, then they're going to clear to your side, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is how MOBAs, like, I mean, you can go on YouTube and search for a League jungle tracking video, and there is so much intentional thought put in by ranked players in League about tracking jungle for the first 4 minutes of the game. Knowing, like, and it's about if I can place a ward here, and I know how this character plays, where they typically like to start. There are tons of guides on where junglers should be starting based on hey, I know that this lane could get volatile at level 2, so I'm going to start on this side and maybe go down there. Or I'm going to, I know that my top lane might get volatile at 4 minutes, so I'm going to start bot side, clear up the top. Like, that is typical for a MOBA. And I think Smite has a big advantage in that it is both a MOBA and and a third-person action game, and we want to remain that way, right? We want it to feel like an action game where you're not playing super slow through the early game, doing nothing but freezing waves and all that kind of stuff. But we've said it a lot. We also do want to push it more into the MOBA category a little bit. We think that our players have shown that they are hungry for more traditional MOBA mechanics. Basically, every time we've introduced one, players have really liked it. So that is the level of attention to detail that I think we, at least for now, again, anything could change. I wonder if players are going to make that type of content, consume that type of content, learn from that type of content, and have it be a mainstay. Because I think if you walk to their speed or yellow and you drop a ward on yellow, and okay, they aren't passing over yellow at the very least. That gives me information on where they could start. Here are my possible permutations. I know how I can play my first 2 minutes. And then it's all out the window, right? That's what makes MOBAs great, is that you can have this plan and then it all changes in a moment. That's what makes them dynamic and really fun. But you can literally one ward, and if a jungler it crosses over there in the first 30 seconds, can lay out your next 2 minutes of gameplay pretty consistently most of the time.
Cool. I mean, that basically answers your question, or my question.
Yeah.
About like jungle pathing earlier in OP jungle, because that also leaves it up to the player to be good enough and smart enough to be thinking about that way. Which I don't know what percentage of the community would be thinking like that. Like in a very, not even a very, but just kind of like I guess above average breakdown of the map and how they should be playing it, or if they're just walking to their lane like, all right, time to ward right next to my lane. We'll see if the jungler gets here or not.
Yep.
Yeah, question in chat. I assume you guys will. They talk about loving Assault and having more casual game modes down the line. I assume that will be a thing, but if you would like to answer.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I'm kind of heads down on getting things ready that I can get ready. We are definitely going to have more modes besides Conquest. I think that's about all I can say at this time. We know there is a large community that prefers these types of modes. We intend to make things for them. But right now, Conquest is our focus. I do not know when an alternate mode besides Conquest will be ready. But we haven't forgotten about those types of modes for sure.
Okay. So just current focus for basically everyone is just laying out the foundation.
Yep.
And trying to make sure everything looks good, feels good, plays good. And then start laying the other bricks around, figuring out where they're going.
Exactly. I did want to talk a little bit about strength versus intelligence and how that works with magical and physical damage. I think that that's going to be something that might confuse some people at first, but I think it is pretty clear. But first, let me tell you about Prize Picks. Yahoo! What is Prize Picks? Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 5 million members. It is the most fun, exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. They have some exciting developments in here, though, Bera. May is a huge month for esports, and all of it is on Prize Picks. Cash in on all the exciting esports action this spring, including Counter-Strike's IEM Dallas, the League of Legends Midseason Invitational, and the Toronto Ultra Call of Duty Major. It's available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. And they offer all maps for every match, as well as stats like kills, headshots, first blood, and many more. They also have options for Apex Legends, which I know you'll be excited about, Valorant, League of Legends, Counter-Strike, and of course, Call of Duty. So, for example, you've got, maybe you could have Hydra for more than 54.5 maps 1 to 3 kills, and Simp for more than 23.5 map 1 kills. Like, that type of stuff is all there on Prize Picks. I know a lot of our fans are fans of multiple esports, so you can use that knowledge now to your advantage. Now with Prize Picks, which is very, very fun. So excited to see what y'all can do with that. Don't forget that there's still, of course, basketball playoff season. In this basketball playoff season, the star players mean more on Prize Picks. Keep an eye out for starred players on the board, and you could receive a 10% payout boost if they're in your winning lineup, which is pretty cool. So quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes Prize Picks the #1 fantasy sports app. So download the app today and use code BACKLINERS for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, use code BACKLINERS for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy. There you go. Okay, yeah, so strength versus intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
No more magical power, no more physical power. Strength is the physical power comparison, intelligence the magical power comparison. But with no classes and everyone being able to build all the items, it gives you a lot of options. And also, we are intentionally taking a lot of gods in some really hybrid options, opening up some new build paths, all that type of stuff. So a good one, I think, is like Bacchus. Bacchus, all basic attacks have 100% strength scaling and 20% int scaling. That is true for all characters. But Bacchus's basic attacks are physical damage. So even if you build intelligence, you will deal more damage, but they will deal physical damage. One of his, we call them internally +1s, that he got is now after you use Chug, your next basic attack will deal bonus damage. That is based on your protections. It's 60% of your physical protections and 60% of your magical protections, which is very, very cool. And then Belly Flop, and this is a lot of the logic that we're using. This is a very physical attack, right? He's leaping on you. He's dealing damage because he's landing on top of you. So it does physical damage. And that is, the damage type is often determined by the feel of the attack, what it's doing. The scaling can be whatever we kind of want it to be for balance or for thematic reasons, but his is strength scaling. So if you build strength, your Belly Flop will deal more damage. But your Belch, that is not a physical hit necessarily. It's, of course, a magical belch of the gods. That has intelligence scaling. And does magical damage. So he does hybrid damage types, can benefit from both. There are items that give you both. I can tell you that I have been a big fan of like Bacchus Solo with an item that called Dagda's that is very similar to Glad Shield. And a bunch of cooldown and some hybrid items, and just being this tanky damage dealer that is hard to itemize against because I'm dealing both physical and magical damage. Kerninos is one that you will probably identify with pretty well. Kerninos is a very split damage type character. If you are welcome to build full strength, crit, all that kind of stuff, and he does very well with that. But your abilities won't do very much of the heavy lifting for you. You still have your root with Bramble Blast and Your polymorph with Wild Hunt, but they won't necessarily deal a lot of damage, except for Horn Charge. That is a physical, that is an ability that scales off of strength, and it's a 100% strength scaling. So if you're building full strength and some crit, then your abilities are there to kind of help you land basics, and then your autos and your dash are going to do all your damage. Whereas if you build intelligence on Cardanos, your basics will still scale because they scale 20% intelligence. They will still always do physical damage. But you will get more healing from Spring Stance, a stronger slow from Winter Stance, more prot shred from Fall Stance. Summer does scale based on strength or intelligence, whichever you have more of. But those like auxiliary effects are enhanced by intelligence, not by strength. Your Bramble Blast damage is magical damage that scales 50% strength, 80% intelligence on the initial hit. So you still get some benefit for building strength, but more for building intelligence. And your ultimate is magic damage that is 100% intelligence scaling. So your autos will still hit pretty hard. There are some really good hybrid ADC items. But your abilities will do more of the heavy lifting than your basics will with the hybrid build. Does that make sense? Do you have any questions based on my explanation?
Oh, yeah, everything makes sense. I was just wondering, does it feel, I guess, even for characters that are more strength-based to only have to build strength items? And does that feel stronger? Or do the hybrid characters feel like just as good? Or
I think
better?
The hybrid characters feel just as good, if not better, most of the time.
Interesting, okay.
Because you just have more potential build paths to go. You know, we have a lot of items in, but it's nowhere near where we want it to fully be. So you just have less options. If you're like on her, for example, no intelligence scaling in the kit. All strength scaling. Right. Fenrir, all strength scaling, no intelligence scaling. You just have less items that are good on you, but you use them really, the items that are good you use really well, but there will just be a little bit less variety. We intend to obviously add a lot more items of all types. But I think Cardanos is really good. I think Chalk is really good. Like Chalk, for example, his one deals physical damage no matter what, but its scaling is 80% strength, 60% intelligence. So if you build an item that has, let's say, just for ease of math, I don't think there is any item that does this, 50 strength, 50 intelligence, you would gain 80% of 50 from your strength, 60% of 50 from your intelligence, and then add that in and deal it all as physical damage. If you built 100 intelligence, no strength, you would have 60 extra damage from your intelligence, but you would still deal physical damage, even though you're building intelligence, right? Because it's about what the abilities do or what your basics do, not what your items are building for. So that is like key to understand. I think like Neith and Zeus are two very, very good hybrid characters. Neith, her weave detonation does magic, or no, it actually does physical damage, but scales off of intelligence. Her one does physical damage, scales off of both. Her two does only magic, only scales off of int. Her 3 does magic, scales off of int. Her ult does physical, scales off of both. So if you want to build ADC Neith, just use your 1 and your ult to set up for your basics. It works really well. If you want to build Mage Neith and have your 2 and then 1 to blow up the weave, because now the 2 is the weave generator, then that burst will deal a lot, but then you don't have a ton of follow-up with your basics. They still scale, again, 20%. All basic attacks are 100% strength scaling, 20% int scaling, so they do still hit harder, but not nearly as hard as strength, obviously. But like that feels really good. Zeus getting additional basic attack damage on you whenever he has charges feels really good. Ymir, Frostbite, that feels really good with strength. So they're like, the thing that I think I'm most excited to do, we play test once a day, and I'm like, oh, there have been 5 things I wanted to try. I want to build Strength Zeus no crit. I want to build crit Zeus. I want to build int Zeus. I want to build hybrid Zeus. I want to build tank Zeus. Like, all these things, and then I get one playtest, and that's for every god. Like, I want to try all these things. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I gotta wait until tomorrow. Like, I just can't wait to, like, spam a bunch of games over a couple of days and get to try out all of the different options for all of these different gods. Because I think that it just makes the characters a lot more dynamic. You can play Ymir in... Ymir can play 5 roles, as far as I'm concerned. Like, that god's crazy. And you can build him so many different ways, and it can be different every time.
I was gonna say, this is probably, like, gonna be the most fun Smite is, because there's no meta.
Yep.
Like, once really good people start defining a meta and a way to play the game and to build the characters, then that kind of, like, deletes the customization out, and then the for fun builds. I think the for fun builds will stay in lower levels of play for a very long time.
Oh, for sure.
But the higher levels of play, I think you'll start getting that railroad eventually. Well, obviously, I mean, MOBA players will, like, always do that.
Yep.
But I was reading through the items while you were talking.
Yeah.
And these are honestly really cool items. They're a lot... I mean, obviously, some of them are still similar to Smite 1 or off of Smite 1 items, and I think that that just kind of has to happen in MOBAs. Like, you need an item that reduces protections or gives you penetration. Like, that just has to be a thing. But a lot of these seem really cool. And I like the fact that you can activate them, because it just gives it that extra level of, or I guess that extra layer of individual skill that can come into play.
Yep.
Where the more mechanical players can start to shine once we start seeing, like, tournaments and esports or just, like, little weekly tournaments.
Yep.
So I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, I think the item store, we probably have like 15 items, tier 3 items that we want to add, like, as soon as we can. It's just, there's so much to do. But yeah, I think there's so much advantage to moving to active items. There's a lot of advantage to moving to component builds. There's having multiple active items, like, think of all the metas where supports are complaining, like, I need med. Like, if I don't have med, we can't win, and now I just have one relic. Like, now, sure, med, what did we call it? Amanita Charm is a lot like med. You put down a mushroom and it heals for % HP every 1 second for 5 seconds. Mm-hmm. That could be really good. It doesn't mean you can't build 5 other items, though. Instead, strong relics took up 50% of your available relics, right? Beads Aegis for mid laners and ADCs took up 100% of your relics. Yep. You got to go, shell or something like that once every so often. But for the vast majority of the time, if a relic was really strong, it took up 50% of your available options. Now it takes up 1 out of 6 slots, right? Mm-hmm. And so that feels a lot less bad, even if it's really strong. And it means things like Blink. Like, Blink is now, you have to build it as an item. And so it does have more, yes, you don't give up 50% of your relics, but you are giving up a damage item because it's just health and CDR.
Yeah, never mind. That makes the whole jungle discussion I had earlier just completely change if people can start with Blink.
Yeah, can't start with it.
Yeah, that changes everything.
So it makes a huge difference, right? Like, the whole game is different based on not having access to Blink, like at level 1. Or level 12, guaranteed. Blink is still really good because it is currently combat Blink, but it takes up an item slot. That's a really big deal. So there's a lot of really cool things there. One thing I do want to cover before we wrap up in items is we talked about it on the Patch Notes show. We are really trying to... This is an area where even I get challenged a lot still on my preconceived notions of how I should feel at full build against certain targets, all that kind of stuff. In Smite 1, we have reached a point where every class feels really, really powerful against basically all targets once they hit their spikes, right? Those spikes change based on what you are. You know, tanks feel super strong in the early game. And then they might fall off later, but they can also get like capped prots, which is really crazy. Mages, ADCs, they can kill everyone. They can get to full build. ADCs can have 2.5 attack speed. Mages can have 30% CDR, 30% pen for both. All that kind of stuff, and a lot of power. There are items that are very, very strong at what they do, but don't give you other things. So, for example, Totem of Death is the premier magical penetration item for dot-based characters. Its passive is, when you hit an enemy god or jungle boss with an ability, gain 10% magical penetration for 4 seconds, stacks up to 5 times. If you Anubis won someone and hit them 5 times, you have 50% pen.
Jeez.
That's insane, right? It is $29.50 gold, fairly expensive. You get 20 intelligence. 20. Whereas most, then there's something like Eldritch Orb, which has only intelligence. Or no, the best way to put it, the tier 1, the start, like, the component for intelligence is gem. It's 450 gold for 15 intelligence. You get 5 more intelligence. Totem also gives you cooldown rate, which is very strong. But still, you get next to no intelligence, but an insane amount of penetration. Then there are items like Eldritch Orb that give you absolutely nothing except for intelligence. It's 2,850 gold for 145 intelligence. Nothing else. No passive, no other stats. You have to make choices in your build. Am I going to kill squishies well? Am I going to kill tanks well? Am I going to hit hard but not have a lot of cooldown? Cooldown is a lot harder to come by. The Chronos Pendant, that was a good comment from Seafog in chat.
I know.
Chronos Pendant, what did it ended up with? 45 intelligence for a 2,500 gold item, but 25 cooldown rate and the old Chronos Pendant passive. There are a lot more trade-offs in your build. And it takes adjustment to get used to. I hope the players understand why we think it's important to not give you all the stats you want once you hit 6 items. It accelerates power creep really quickly. It feels great, but it means that you can't feel great unless you have all of these things. And we really believe that it can feel great because you're making the right choices in your games, right? Not just because you do everything, but because you built correctly in this game, so it's going to feel very good for you. I would highly, highly, highly recommend for the testers for this weekend, the alpha testers, if you're playing a mid laner, do not just go Chronos Pendant, Totem of Death, what are some other low int high utility items like Gem of Focus. If you do, you will type in the feedback, mages are terrible. And you would be right, because you're ending the game at 200 intelligence, and so you have no scaling, really. I would highly recommend, things like Eldritch Orb are very good, because they just give you a lot of raw stats. make sure that you feel like you're getting enough raw stats and then some select passives and actives that will enhance what you need in that game, and you will feel much stronger. I promise. My first 2 weeks, I was building Chronos Pendant and Gem of Focus and being like, guys, I don't know, mages are really bad. And there were a lot of other changes besides that, but when I just started building Eldritch Orb first and being able to clear waves really quickly and then getting my utility a little bit later, then that's when I started to feel pretty good. So yeah, just be wary of that. Don't be scared to get the low stat items for strong effects, but don't over-index on them, because if you do, you'll be sad. Is what I would say. Executioner has 10 strength. That for 2,700 gold. That is the same as the 450 component item.
Bad.
You get 50% pen if you hit autos. Is that good?
Nope. Terrible.
Yeah. All right.
Needs buffs.
All right. I'll buff it. I got you. That ain't no problem. Yeah. I will say also there at the bottom of the notes, there is a known issues and roadmap section. I would highly recommend looking at that. There are a lot of known issues. Again, alpha moment, all that kind of stuff. But keep that in mind. Rico has a good question in chat. From a designer's perspective, what's been your favorite thing that has become significantly easier going to UE5? We have so much more control over being able to do things. It is insane. You would not believe how little power we have in Smite 1 as designers to make effective change to gods and how they feel. And that's not... It's just how it is, You just need help from programming or animation or anything like that in order to do things. Kukulkan has a new effect in Smite 2 where if you use your 2 while you're inside your tornado, instead of getting your speed, your movement speed buff, he instead dashes forward and it does damage and slows. But then you don't get any movement speed afterwards. That would have 100,000% been a programming task in Smite 1. I think Ajax did that. They came up with it, and it was play testable the next day. And he did it by himself. I was talking to Pon at one point about how Zeus keeping detonate charges on people is really cool and good for his kit, but it's also a gameplay tell that I detonate someone, or I've been detonated, I lose all my stacks, and then I have a general gauge of, okay, it's taking him this long to apply more stacks, so I know roughly has cooldown on his 3, and you're kind of losing that clarity. So it'd be really cool if we could dim the detonate charges when detonate is on cooldown and brighten them whenever he has it available, so you know. And as I'm saying this to him and explaining my reasoning, he's able to go into a blueprint, do some wizardry, and go, yeah, that's a good idea. It's done. He can do that by himself.
Oh.
And Pon is literally a wizard. Legitimate genius. Don't know how he does it. That would still take me forever. I would still need significant help. But I'm me. The amount, I prototyped a god that I'm porting that I can't tell you who it is yet. I was able to do the 3 of their 4 abilities and most of the passive by myself being asking Pon for help every 30 minutes within 3 days. Then it needs a lot of polish and the teams need to touch it and all that kind of stuff. That's not all it is. It's not easy work, but we are going from next to no control to a lot of control very quickly. And that is both great and scary and hard. But means that I think we're going to be able to create some really, really awesome things. The truly the sky is the limit, I think, with what we can design. And I could have said that on Smite 1, but I wouldn't have been right. I could think that, but it probably wasn't realistic.
Well, it sounds sick. I'm excited to see. It's coming out what tomorrow?
Tomorrow,
8 p.m. Eastern.
8 p.m. Eastern. Yep, and
Nice.
open until Saturday night, I believe. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be hitting some queues. I don't think people can stream it. I don't think I'm going to stream my gameplay. Is my guess.
No, you just don't want to show like how dominant you are and
Right.
how much pro
How
players
washed
still
I
in
am, like how my computer's starting to get a little old, so I think it might chug if I try and stream, but maybe I'll get the itch. I'll definitely be watching a lot of streams, and I'll be trying to. I'm trying to play. I tried to tell Pon and AJ today, like, surely the best use of our time as designers on Friday is to just play all day. What could be more valuable than that for our design process?
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
Play all day, watch streams all day. Because, I mean, I think it's going to be like you're trying to go over picks and bans, and there's a game going at the same time.
Yep.
That has never worked for
No.
any team I've ever been on. Everyone's always been like, oh, like, look at what this guy just did. Or, like, look at what they're pick and banning right now. Like, and it's like, no, we got to focus on our picks and bans. It's like, it's impossible to. So, everyone should just play.
Yep.
On your team, and then, go over picks and bans later.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Let's just get some games in. We'll figure out the rest. I've got a lot to do if I want to play all day Friday, that's for sure. But, that's for future me to worry about, not current me.
Current you just need some sleep.
Yeah, mood. Yeah, okay, any final questions before we wrap it up? I think I didn't see any random questions of the week in the Discord, but we're kind of taking some questions here, so it's like mostly the same thing. But I'll check again before we wrap. But any more questions that you had so that you can get ready to dominate, or that you saw in chat that you wanted to ask?
Not really, honestly. I think we answered all of chat's questions besides Seafogs, and yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
I've asked everything I need to.
Fair enough. Well, I hope everyone really enjoys the alpha. If you want to guaranteed play, you just need to purchase the Founders Pack. There are plenty of Nexus store links for your favorite content creators. Do you have a Nexus store link, Barry? For people to
yes.
buy gems through? Yeah, go to Barry's Twitch or whatever and check there. You can buy Founders Packs for the same price. And support some content creators that you like, which is very cool. Or you can request access to the alpha on Steam or the Epic Game Store, I think. I don't know about on consoles. And I think we will be letting some people in, is my understanding. But you get guaranteed access if you get a Founders Pack, which is good value anyways. And yeah, I hope everyone's able to get some games in. I hope... God... If I just have one request, God, is for server stability. Like, just...
I was going to bring that up,
please,
and I was like, no.
Man, just please. Look, the team, at Rally here is the company we work with for that now. Like, I've been told that they were up literally, like, all night last night testing. Everyone is well aware how important it is.
So they get to play all night.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I swear we care more about our server stability than the players do, even if they think we don't. I'm just, that stuff's hard. I don't understand it. I'm just hoping for server stability. That is the number one thing that I hope, so that we can get good feedback. Please. That's my final request. To the server gods. Yeah, to the server gods. All right, thanks everyone for watching / listening. Thanks to Prize Picks for being our sponsor for today's episode. We'll be back probably next week to talk about some feels and how the alpha went, some impressions, how weak ADC is, how badly we need to buff it, all that kind of stuff. Just kidding. On Her is crazy. On Her is crazy, by the way. Did you see his new ult?
He throws a few spears at a big one, I think.
Yeah, a big one, and it's longer than basic attack range. And it is crazy. So yeah, excited to see everyone out there. And we'll catch you next time. Until then, Barra, you know what to do.
Bye.
You know.
I'm tired.
I could feel it. I could feel it in that one.
I almost went to sleep before the podcast. I was just laying down in bed, and I was 2 seconds from falling asleep.
Me and Destiny, dude. Me and Destiny on the pod. Like, let's go. She would have hopped in.
For real.